What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. This is A Line in the Stars, episode 16. I'm Jordan.
I'm Matt.
And it's time for some Lower Decks. Oh, buddy, it's time for some Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. That was so appropriate. It was so appropriate. That was perfect. We both have a confession to make. We have been talking for the last 37 minutes, actually, about how much we don't recall of season 3, and we are here to review season 3 and 4 of Lower Decks. And we were like,
it's been a year. It's been a year for us.
Yeah, over a year and a half almost.
Yeah,
now. I mean, the last episode was October 22nd of 22, so it has been a minute. And season 4 is also come and gone. The news that season 5 is in production, so it's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's been a minute. And just so for transparency's sake, we are not going to talk too much about season 3. We're going to there are some things that stand out for sure, and definitely some episodes that stand out, moments, but we're going to spend a little bit more time today talking about season 4 just because it's fresh in the mind. So, yeah, I mean, I guess a good place to start from the season that was from so long ago, definitely breaking some temporal chords here. What stood out to you from season 3?
Definitely starting off with the first episode, Grounded, going to an amusement park based off of Zephyr Cochrane.
Oh, and it was so amazing that they got James Cromwell to voice him again. Oh my God.
And like they hijack the ride of the Phoenix, right?
Yes. Yeah. So good.
That was incredible. Just seeing the stuff that you see talked about in First Contact.
The statue.
The statue pointing off into the vast space.
That's right. So good. So good. And it's one of those on the nose, like if you know Star Trek, you know exactly what's going on and you're super excited to be there. But if you don't know Star Trek, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of campy and funny. But then but it forces you to think about watching First Contact, which is arguably the best Star Trek. Best Next Generation movie by far. And when Geordi is explaining to Zephyr Cochrane, about the statue, and he's like, they made a statue? Just that little thing can spur off into watching the greatest Next Gen movie and then on to other things. And it's such a cool little reference. I really enjoyed that. It was a really fun episode. Like just all of the crap that they go through also just to cut in all the crap that they go through just to have the courts declared Captain Freeman innocent.
That was so good. All the stuff that they do, and ultimately at the end, it's just the whole thing worked. We told you it just to wait.
Just trust the system.
Trust the system. It was the Packlids all along. And I don't remember the name, but the guy who went on the secret mission to infiltrate and find out the stuff, wasn't he a guy?
That was Captain Bateman.
Yeah.
From the Bozeman on the past tense, or what is it? I believe it's past tense. One of the great episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation is the one where the Enterprise gets stuck in the time loop.
Yes, and
it's Kelsey Grammer, and he's the captain of the Bozeman, and it's an old Reliant class, and it comes through, and he's like. Oh, and the fact that they use him as the the special operative in that episode, so good.
And we bring in Tuvok in flashback mode of the interrogation.
Yes. Yeah. Great way to start a season.
Yeah. We also in the second episode got the start of Bold Boimler.
Bold Boimler,
which was such a good addition.
It really was.
Because just more antics from Boimler, which ultimately I think does help him develop into the person we see by the end of season 4.
Right, exactly.
But it's played off so much as a joke for this season of just like, no, this is a terrible idea. Like,
that was, it's interesting. Like in the synopsis that I watched, it was the Bold Boimler came up like 3 times, and the antics that go along with Bold Boimler is insane. The whole
Boimler is someone else.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole fight with him and the alien who's the hunter. Like, the whole thing is just amazing. And then he stops to pose for selfies with him afterwards. Just so on point. Like, I mean, that is Lower Decks at its absolute finest, when it's like that blend of like humor and Star Trek and just that real world, like, oh, I'm gonna stop and snap a selfie with you real quick after I kicked your ass. Super awesome. Oh, great moment. Yeah, man, I think we're remembering a little bit more from the season.
Yeah, I mean, we also had in season 1 Mariner meeting Boimler, and he's in the vineyard.
That's right.
And the whole bit like they're supposed to leave them on the vine. We make raisins, not wine.
We dry them. And how oblivious Boimler is to all of the sexual innuendos around him from all the beautiful women that work on the vineyard with him. It's so ridiculous. It's so Boimler.
Look at my bushels.
My bushel. He's like, Tamulin, you know that what we do is stomp on the grapes, okay? Like, just super good. Oh, man. Like, yeah, what a great way to start out the season. That's how it starts. Like, it's like, what did they pull that from? That was from All Good Things. It was the opening
All the Good Things, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same shots, and then Boimler's fingers were the same as old Picard, and
yes.
Like, so good. Like, just expert, like, level, like, deep cut Star Trek and on the nose humor. It's so good.
I also think that Room for Growth was a underrated episode. Where everyone goes to the relaxation spa.
Yeah.
And Freeman literally can't relax.
Yeah. And so the engineering crew try to engineer the best way to relax, and they
and they do.
And they do.
Create the perfect, like, you step in instantly rejuvenated, and then the owner of the spa has it destroyed because that would mean the end of her business.
Oh my God. And a Federation business that actually makes no money.
Yes.
So literal, just egotistical greed.
Yeah, it's just, no, I'm doing this not for money, but because this is my job. I like doing my job, and if this thing exists, I don't get to do my job.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot about that. To be honest with you, I completely forgot about that one.
I really liked the recruitment episode.
Oh, yeah.
The booth. That was Reflections, I believe.
That was Reflections, yeah. Boimler loses his shit.
I feel a little bit bad about going down the list of just like, hey, here's how all the episodes ended.
Yeah. We're awesome at recaps.
I'll briefly switch my tune and say that this season developed Rutherford a lot more,
really,
and that's something I enjoyed all the way through.
Yeah.
It happened a little bit like piecemeal because they're trying to stretch that out from beginning of the season to the end of the season.
Right.
So it kind of falls around the midpoint where you start getting traction on the plot. Rutherford having problems with his cybernetic implant, and he finds out about, like, the other him.
Yeah. And it was like briefly alluded to briefly at the end of season 1.
Yeah, which we didn't touch on until season 3.
Yeah.
And
that is delightful story.
We also get to see, like, in the Mind Escape still, but like Delta Flyer.
Oh yeah.
Like they goes racing, he goes, old Rutherford, brash man, creates his own ship. It's super effective and all this stuff, and Rutherford
his fanboy
that we know and love is just like, you just chose a pre-existing ship because the Delta Flyer is awesome.
It's awesome. Like, he's just totally fanboying and gets everyone in the proper uniforms and just like, oh my God. Yeah. The action sequence, I gotta say, the animation around that race was so good. They blended that like traditional animation with the like the high frame rate that really just it's the same thing like when it's the same effect that they used when the Titan came in at the end of season 1, right? And it's just that high frame rate with the classic animation, and like obviously it's all digital these days, but like they maintained the same style. They didn't lose any coherency with it, but it just looks so good. It just the way that was animated, both like the Titan coming in to save the day and that space race was just so good. Like the obstacles were ridiculous.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
But they were just done so incredibly well. And we got a Space Koala reference in that episode, didn't we?
Yes. I think we did.
Yeah, I think it was at the very end. It was the Space Koala that got him out of it.
I think so. I know that he imagines his friends in his dreamscape too.
Yeah.
And that's why he also started winning.
Yeah.
It's so like, friendship.
Well, and then at the very end of that, when, brash Rutherford, is dying in Rutherford's arms, that moment where he's like, always hold on to your friends. Like, that's what really matters. It's like, and he was like, thanks for, giving me one last ride. Thanks for, basically just being, everything that I wanted to be, but I never could say I could be. Thank you for being that. Now hold on to it. It was a really powerful moment, actually, for Rutherford. I really enjoyed that. Yeah,
he got a whole bunch of development, and that didn't just like end like mid-season. Like that followed all the way to the end of the season. But
absolutely,
I feel like the early section of season 3, not saying it's not memorable, but there's a certain episode that after the trailer for season 3 came out, we were all super excited for.
Yeah, and that's Hear All, Trust Nothing. To be able to, like, for me, what stood out from season 3, I would agree with everything that Matt just said. And for me, the if I were to pick a favorite moment, favorite episode, favorite everything, it was Hear All, Trust Nothing for a couple of different reasons. 2, like, 1, when Ransom makes the ensign at the con fly slower.
Just pretend we're admiring the pylons.
That's right. And then it pans back so we can get more of the theme music for DS9. Also done in the extraordinarily high frame rate and animated so beautifully.
I got chills
so did
when I watched that. I was like...
And it was like almost frame for frame when they were recreating things there. And I got chills too. I got chills right now just thinking about it. It was an incredible episode because like DS9 has only recently gotten so much love. And I want to say on more of a national level for us Star Trek fans, if you know, you know. Like if you're a Star Trek fan, DS9 is definitely like a top 3 series for you. That is just my opinion, but anybody that I've ever talked to who is a Star Trek fan, they will definitely put DS9 as a top 3 series. But it was not universally loved or received or like anything when it was out. Right. It was Star Trek The Next Generation's stepchild and then Voyager's stepchild. When it was written better, directed better, and had better storylines and everything, like better, like, and I hate to say it because like that's going up against Next Gen and going up against Voyager, which stand on their own in their own ways. But like DS9 for me has always been my favorite, and it's the same for a lot of people. And since the pandemic, since we started this podcast, a lot of people have discovered Deep Space Nine. Yeah, and
going off on that on a slight tangent, like it's really easy to say. For me that like DS9 is my favorite Star Trek, like hands down is my favorite Star Trek. Yeah. But in other Star Trek shows that I love, I think Lower Decks is one of like the best ones for this example because I adore Lower Decks.
Right.
It's like probably number 2 or 3, depending on the way you calculate how like the goodness of the show.
Right.
Because hands down across all of its now 4 seasons, Lower Decks has the most consistently amazing episodes. Like
Agreed.
there has not been a string of stinkers. Yeah. And that's mostly just because of television and watching things and how that is so wildly different than where it was back when Next Gen was going on, and certainly when TOS was out.
Absolutely.
That just the shorter series, the shorter number of episodes requires that kind of on top of it writing. And there's, like I said, it kind of bounces around because Next Gen is also incredible. Season 4 onwards of Voyager is almost entirely like bangers.
Yeah.
There are many more dips and valleys.
Oh, yeah.
But, I'm season 5 of my rewatch of Voyager now. And I'm like, we just started. The Delta Flyer was just built.
Oh, cool.
So I'm
That's
like,
such a cool sequence of
here we
episodes.
go. Like, so the fact that we're talking in tandem with like the Delta Flyer showing up in season 3 of Lower Decks is also funny.
Hey, yeah, absolutely.
The Deep Space Nine, I also want to add in to get back onto that episode, is it sounds sappy, but I felt like I was returning home.
Same.
I still haven't put in the time because I think it's an original score, but when they're walking around the promenade and it goes up to Ops and it goes to Kira, there is the way that is scored is so reminiscent of how Deep Space Nine was scored. When I watched that, one, I had chills and I was getting a little misty-eyed with Kira looking out the window at the wormhole.
Yeah, which is where we left her.
And that's where we left Cisco.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I thought like, oh, this is so good. Surely this is taken straight from an episode of somewhere at some time. I don't have the time to go through every single soundtrack that DS9 has ever had, but if it's original, I'm thinking it is. God, that was scored incredible because that was so soft, reminiscent. The instruments used, the French horn, I think primarily, just evokes Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Chris Westlake is the composer for Lower Decks, and he is a Deep Space Nine super fan, as he has said. And getting to compose, all of that's original.
Good.
Getting to compose that was one of his dreams. Getting to get his symphony to do the DS9 theme was one of his dreams. And I know what you're talking about.
That's so cool.
There's just certain and that's the thing with Lower Decks. It's all of these super fans. Mike McMahon, the creator, primary writer and director of, he's basically like the Filoni of Lower Decks, right? And he is also like a super nerd and like a super fan. And the fact that he's making these episodes and is part of that is also like a lifelong dream for him. And that's the thing, really comes through with, take that down to Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid. Super fans, super nerds. Like Tawny Newsome is a Deep Space Nine quote mega fan. And we know that Jack Quaid is a huge Star Trek fan. Like everybody involved with the show loves Star Trek. And that's the thing that really comes through.
It does.
You don't just get Armin Shimmerman and a Visitor to come back unless the people behind what they're doing is worth their time.
Yeah.
Right. And both of them have come out and said, give us more Star Trek. Armin Shimmerman just recently said it'd be difficult to do the makeup all the time, but I'm willing to put myself through it.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, wow, holy shit. So I mean, like, the amount of love that like the two of them got, like the fact that it was Quark and Kira, somehow is almost poetic. Like, I would have loved to have seen Bashir. I would have loved to have seen Jake. I would have loved to have seen any number of characters.
Yeah.
But for some reason or another, like, Kira and Quark were almost like the heart of DS9. They feel like the holdouts. You feel like every other character would naturally progress past DS9. Right.
And develop further.
But they're the heart and soul.
They're like, Kira and DS9, like, that's a station that the Bajorans fought for, took over, and despite her worries about the Federation being a new overseer, like, that she stays on DS9, and Quark, like, Quark has he was able to expand. He was able to do other things, but he was able to franchise.
Yeah.
But like, him being at the original Quarks is like, you would. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Just in marketing, like,
just in marketing alone, like, it's the original Quarks. Come on now. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that was such a love letter to the DS9 fans. And I gotta say, like, my favorite part of the whole episode was the super badass hardcore Orion that was just a poser.
That was just a poser, and it was Tendi.
And it was Tendi who's the badass. Yeah, like, Tendi got a lot of play in this season too. And, not as much as in season 4. And I think season 4 was very much a Tendi season. But this was the first time where you see her, like, coming out of her shell, and it's okay for her to be an Orion for a moment. And super
Mistress
good.
Of the Winter Solstice.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that bleeds through into, Strange New Worlds, like we talked about last time. And so, that's the thing. Like, it's this beautiful love letter to Deep Space Nine and Star Trek. And it was hands down, like, my favorite episode of the whole season. And the thing that stood out the most, like, I mean, the other thing, like, if I were to quickly change subjects, and it's just the, like, how do you put it? The episode that followed, the Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus, was one of the most cleverly written episodes. And, like, how Boimler just goes through complete hell in that episode. Like, they switch gears so quick. Like, they give us this love letter to Deep Space Nine, and they leave you, like, to switch back to Hear All Trust Nothing. They give you this little taste at the end, like, hey, we're not quite done with this yet. Like, there's a possibility we're coming back, right? And then we get Rom in season 4. And so it's like, oh, okay, so we're doing things here, right? And so, but then to switch gears into the Crisis Point 2, and how ridiculous and over the top that episode was, and how much shit Boimler took.
Yeah, was that the one with the
where they're going on the epic quest?
Yeah, was the end of that was that Kitty Hawk? Was that Kitty Hawk, or was that a different season?
I think it was the end of that episode. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because this doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing. Like, it was just so ridiculous and over the top. And
a call back to the motion picture. Yes.
Oh my God. Like, the season 3, I really wish, like, we had talked when we were getting ready for this podcast. Like, we'll watch it. We'll
do better, we promise.
We do, seriously, like, we're gonna do our research this time around, because, like, for seriously 30 minutes we're like, what do we do? Like, we can talk about season 4 for forever, and we actually I gotta say, 30 minutes solid. of season 3 talk, I think we did pretty damn good.
Yeah. The Crisis Point 2 also provided the Nexus like flat like transportation to like Kirk's like ranch house.
That's right.
And he meets Sulu.
That's right, Sulu. I forgot about Sulu. At the very end of the episode, and what is he go? He goes,
horse is gonna bite you now.
Horse is gonna bite you now. And it does. Oh my god. And the fact that
the Boimler scream wakes up.
The fact that they got George Takei. Like, I mean, they got Takei to come back to Star Trek.
As Sulu.
Like, we're getting Sulu fucking 60 years later. Like, oh my god.
It all kicks off because like Boimler's nerding out. He's like, I want to know about everything. Like this. Is like, what was it like to work with Spock? Oh, you'll get to know.
Oh, you'll get to know. Oh yeah, you will get to know.
And eventually you can see just the Sulu's face just like get more and more disinterested. He says, all right, this flashback's done.
The horsey's gonna bite you now.
Horse is gonna bite you now.
It's so good.
And then at the end of that, because the whole also like we need to point out that the whole bold Boimler thing started off because he had gotten news that his transporter clone William Boimler,
that's right, died.
Yeah. And so he has this whole existential crisis about what his purpose in like doing things.
Yep.
And ultimately, he finds that he furthers personal growth. We love to see it. What we also love to see is William Boimler joining Section 31
at the very end of the episode.
At the very end.
Oh, I love how they hand him the Section 31 badge too. Oh.
Wouldn't it make more sense if you guys had regular badges? You just like if you have special badges, that's kind of calling out that you're a special organization. We could still keep you dead. And I'll take that badge.
I'll take
evil
that
laugh.
My goodness. Yeah, once again, another one of the tiny little parts of the season that I forgot, but as soon as you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was great.
Season 3 has so many bangers. Like I said, every
really
single
does.
season of Lower Decks is fantastic. And it hits. There's not been a single miss on like the scale of like say short treks, very short treks, rather very short treks. Like it was supposed. Okay, we're here to talk about Lower Decks, not trash talk. Very short treks,
right?
But as an advertised love letter to the original series, no, only one of those episodes was good,
and that was the
was Holograms All the Way Down.
That's right. Yeah. I agree 100%.
Every single episode of Lower Decks, all of their jokes hit. Unless
it's Peanut Hamper.
I'm not
going to harp on Peanut Hamper. I told Matt I was going to. And what episode was it in season 3?
That was Mathematically Perfect Redemption.
And was that...
Yep.
In season 3?
That was season 3. Yep. She joins the that bird tribe and falls in love with the chief's son, and it's all a lie.
That's right. And then she just like totally turns on him at the very end, but then gets put at the very end of the episode. The one good part of that was she got put next to Agamus.
In Daystrom.
At Daystrom Institute. So once again, we got to hear the gloriousness that is Jeffrey Combs. Oh, that was so good. And then, season 4 saw that story pay off. Peanut Hamper got a little bit of redemption, which I'm a little sad about because, I really hate that character. But anyway.
In season 1, you loved Peanut Hamper.
I know, but it was this episode that just ruined it for me.
It was. I agree. For a show, for Star Trek, not just for a show for character development, but like character development is a thing you want.
Right.
And that's essentially what Star Trek sells its best episodes and seasons on.
Exactly.
And Peanut Hamper is the literal and I guess also the joke is in the show about character development.
She
and
gets no character
growth.
Yeah,
she
goes
chooses.
Right back
she deliberately does not have any character development until season 4.
Yep. It's Star Trek. Once again, I said I wasn't going to harp on it, and I'm not going to go any harder than that. So.
Then the 2-part finale.
The 2-part finale, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It was a really, really good Trusted Sources in the Stars at Night. Like, that was a very interesting take on how, like, you can get Mariner to leave the ship and then have... like the Breen pop back in, which was super interesting. And the thing that Matt and I can't remember is why the Breen were there. But they did mess up the ship. So,
yes.
But yeah, it was very like, I mean, the bad admiral trait, the trope there is a little overused, but they use it in such a way, like with the admiral's name being Admiral Buen Amigo, which, is good friend, and being the person that like betrays them, and using a Texas class that's all automated. Somebody needs to you still haven't seen it yet. Have you watched Prodigy yet?
I've seen the first half of season 1.
So I can't drop this reference on you.
Yeah, you can't. I do know that the virus in the thing.
Okay, yeah.
So and I know that stuff happens.
Okay, so but basically, like,
I don't have any a firm reference.
There you go. So
for that reference,
I won't say anything, and the stories are very, very different from each other, and so they're the same but different, right? And that's the beauty of Star Trek as well. Is like you can tell the same story from a different angle, and that's exactly what they've done here. And the Texas class is basically an all automated fleet, which would make sense if Starfleet was doing that, like in the time of Archer. Got to be honest, like in that time, like you've already invested, resource upon resource into crewing these ships, like it's not real, right? It's not real, but it's a super cool idea. And the one ship that like expands upon the kind of like the base defiant sort of like battleship look, and it's a super cool look for that ship. So I think it was I
like the design of the ship.
Really, really cool. I just don't like the tropiness of like everything's gonna turn red when everything gets evil, but it's a cartoon. It's fine, but
and it's easy under to the visual understanding.
Exactly. And they did the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. They do the same thing in Prodigy. So
and they do the same thing in season 4 with Jeffrey Combs's AI thing.
That's like, right. Yeah,
it goes from red to blue. I'm good now.
That's right. God.
I also want to point out, it's really funny that one kind of like not a direct commentary on AI being a primary use across a giant vast network / established organization.
Picard season
3. No, just a general AI bash from me.
Right.
But also thinking about that, we also had AI being a thing, a primary villain thing, 4 times.
Yeah. So it was season 2 of Discovery.
Prodigy. Lower Decks.
And Picard 3.
Picard 3 and Picard 1.
Was it Picard 1?
Because the AI going to take the portal. The artificial intelligence with the beacon.
Are you season 1 or season 2? Are you talking about the Borg thing?
The Borg ships in season 3, but the AI contacting the giant AI squid thing in the red portal.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. So 5.
Yeah.
Good God.
It's almost like
they're trying to hammer home something right now.
Hammer home something that AI should not be used frivolously across broad strokes.
I mean, look, Star Trek has spent a lot of time harping on technology getting too far away from you. It's interesting, like, as an aside, was watching Angels and Demons at work. And Ewan McGregor's character, he's basically like the Pope to be. And, he's like telling all of the different cardinals and all, as like they're getting ready to surrender. And he's like, the church is, we have stood in the way of science, but, now we can't get in the way of it. So now we need to temper it. We need to tell them not too much, too fast. Right. And I was like, wow, I never, like, when I watched Angels and Demons the first time, I never like picked up on that. And like, it was the church directly combating, technology. And weird aside. I know that was a weird aside.
It is a weird aside. And I'm just in the back of my head, I'm like, man, if only that was an actual stance that
the church took.
They actually took.
I know. Yeah. Like if that was like, my God, this world would be so much better. But hey, we're not a political place.
We're talking about Star Trek.
Star Trek,
we're talking about Star Trek.
So yeah, I mean that was like, I guess the bad Admiral trope was used both well and not well.
Yeah. And I do also want to say real quick, in that season, in the last episode, we got something that we've all been hoping for. And that is Shaxx ejecting the warp core.
We got to actually see it happen from the inside.
From the inside.
Like we saw it they used the same scene twice in Voyager, I believe.
In Voyager, yep.
Which was interesting because here's a little fact that most people don't know, and even the writers on Star Trek didn't know. Voyager had 2 warp cores.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, you have mentioned that before to me.
Yeah, it had a backup warp core. So every time they ejected it and we're like, we don't know what to do, just hook up the new warp core. It's pretty cool. Like, all Starfleet ships are given a backup warp core.
Good old rule of 2. One is none. 2 is 1.
Yes, redundancy is great.
You don't have anything unless you have a backup.
Yeah, and all we got in Insurrection when Geordi ejected the warp core was him pressing the button and looking up and saying done. Or already done, and then Riker's smiling at the screen, and that was it. And then you see this badly animated CGI warp core heading towards this amazingly animated ribbon, and then this wonderful explosion that turns out really bad at the end of it. It's like we spent money at the beginning of this, in the middle, but forgot to spend money at the very end of this special effect. We're putting this on screen today. Why is Insurrection panned so badly as a movie?
It feels like a really long next gen episode.
That's all it is, and that's exactly what they were trying to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. After the heaviness of First Contact, they wanted to do something really light and fun, and they succeeded. I love Insurrection. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Insurrection.
F. Murray Abraham as Adhar Ruafo. Oh, is such a good bad guy. Like we're talking about Lower Decks, but yeah. This is a Star Trek and Star Wars podcast, and so we're going to talk about Star Wars and Star Trek. Thank you.
And also Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons when it's appropriate. But there is a Star Wars reference in there because Obi-Wan was leading the church. It's hard to see Obi-Wan as a bad guy. Like I can't. It's super weird.
That's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Anyway. Oh man. So we totally got off track there. So, I guess to finish up thoughts for season 3 for me, I feel like now after we've talked about it for quite a bit, I'm looking forward to actually going back and watching this. I really want to, like, it was something that was on my list. For me personally, I spent a lot of my time putting together all the YouTube videos that we've been dropping on our channel lately. And so personal entertainment has been kind of like gone out the window a little bit, and I'm regretting some things in life, but I am far enough ahead on the channel where we're good to go. But, you know, that's the thing. Like, I'm definitely want to come back and watch season 3 because there are some bangers in here. And I have to agree. I think that Lower Decks has been the most consistent of all of the new Star Trek shows. I hate calling it New Trek. I know everyone does, but like of everything since 2017, I feel that Lower Decks really is the most consistent top to bottom with what they're trying to accomplish.
Agreed.
You know, Strange New Worlds is right behind it, I feel. And then Picard season 3, like Picard was an interesting amalgamation of like, we're going to tell this type of story, then that type of story, then this type of story.
Right.
And they did an amazing job of that, I feel. You know, and so Star Trek has been amazing, but I think that Lower Decks for me personally is the crux of what Star Trek is right now. And, you know, if that's the case, then we're in good hands because this is like season 3 was fantastic. And I can't wait to actually talk about season 4 because that is very fresh in my mind.
Yeah, well, then let's do just that.
Let's do some season 4 then. Holy shit. So, we'll actually have some. I'll go ahead and start. Like, you know, we're going to try to stick to a format for these reviews as much as we possibly can. We have already definitely gotten off topic today, and so leave it to us to do so. But we want to, like, you know, as we've been preparing for it, and like when we were talking about in the previous segment, like when we were struggling to figure out if we're actually going to be able to do this, you know, like having a plan for these podcasts and having something like a targeted approach for it's going to help us stay on track because we definitely can get off track. So, for me, season 4 of Lower Decks, I'm just going to expand upon what I just said. Season 4 further cemented Lower Decks as great Star Trek. The season top to bottom, like there was not one moment in this season where I felt that they're slipping. As a matter of fact, I felt like every episode, like the promotions were something that I wasn't expecting. I was not expecting them to promote them, but it makes sense after everything that the lowly crew of the Cerritos does. Like the Cerritos is the most popular of all the Cali classes, right?
Yeah.
So of everything they do, damn straight they should all be promoted. And I really love that they forced character growth on the characters again. They forced them all to relook at themselves, and none harder than Mariner. And I feel that that was both a negative and a positive. Like they definitely leaned into the Mariner being a rebel thing this season. But overall, like they just, the thought of like them giving the characters more of a character arc, more responsibilities, and seeing what they can do with it. We get to see Bold Boimler become Cautious Boimler, become Bold Boimler again. You know, like you get to see like what you would see in normal progression for normal people. In an animated cartoon, it's rare. And I think that like we saw it in Clone Wars. Absolutely. Like Clone Wars as our Star Trek or Star Wars reference for this week, I think, for at least my point of view. Clone Wars as an animated series helped us love Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Helped us love Hayden Christensen. Helped us get to where we are right now. And without it, you know, it would be, Star Wars would be kind of like a bit of a desolate place right now, I feel, because we would have been stuck with the sequel trilogy and then probably nothing after that. Right. And so, you know, with Lower Decks, my feeling of it is that, you know, if you can blend character development and that true Star Trek feel, like the whimsical, the funny, the serious, I'll blend all of that together and have a laugh and do it in 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Every week. Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And they did such a fine job this season. So that's for me, like, if I were to summarize season 4, is that it cemented itself with season 4, Lower Decks cemented itself in Star Trek Legacy as like one of the great Star Trek shows of all time. And
absolutely,
it just like it made possible the crossover with Strange New Worlds, which gave us one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time, right? And so you can't argue with that, right? You can't argue with the quality of the work and the stories. And that's the thing, like not a single clunker this entire season. So for me, the biggest thing is I really love, as someone who's been focusing lately on naming episodes of things, it's something that I'm constantly thinking about because of releasing a bunch of episodes, and I'm decided a while ago to name my episodes of things. I love the name of the episodes this season. And oh my God, I just have to say, one of the best episode names. I know you have a favorite, and you brought it up at the beginning before the season even started, and you're like, oh, I'm really looking forward to that episode. And we look forward to it for a different reason. But for me, I have no bones, yet I must flee is one of the greatest episode titles of all time. And when you saw it, we're all like, what the hell does that mean?
We know the reference.
Right. But
I have no mouth, yet I can't scream.
Right. So what does it mean? What is the episode? And we get Moopsie.
We get Moopsie.
One of the greatest.
An adorable destroyer.
Yes. Oh, God. So that's what I have to say for my intro thoughts into this season. I know you want to kind of talk at the end of it. So what are some of your favorite moments from this season?
Well, bouncing off of what you just said, I think it's only fitting to follow that up with the episode you were referring to for me, and that's Parth Ferengi's Heart Place.
Yes.
Which
such a great episode name.
The name is a parody on Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant, intentionally budget mockumentary.
Right.
That is incredible, and one of those things you would not ever expect to get mentioned or referenced in anything, especially not Star Trek.
Well, and that just goes to show that you have nerds making a nerd show. When you have nerds making a nerd show, Dave Filoni, Mike McMahon, like when you have that sort of thing happen, you get this connection to Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever it is you're making, and nerds.
It's also fair to say this is the same thing for actors as well, actors and writers. Yes, because going off on a little bit of a tangent, Darth Marenghi's Heart. Darth Vader's Heart. Garth
Where's
Marenghi's
Padme?
Dark Place. I'll do that. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is a brilliant watch for anyone studying film, writing, like acting, doing comedy.
Yeah.
Outside of just writing funny things.
Right.
All of its jokes are outside of just funny dialogue. It's in the scenes and whatnot and how it's shot. And so that is just a brilliant reference for any show to make.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it was gonna, if it was a parody on that, oh my God, that would be amazing. It wasn't. It was amazing for a different way.
Yeah, and that
was Ramen Lita.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. That was so good. Also the Rutherford Tendi shippers.
Oh yeah.
Was also just a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
And great. No, it's like, we're just platonic.
And
they lay on top of each other inside of one of the ducts.
Exactly. And they're like super, it's like the weirdest best of friends. Like, and they go that the people have been shipping Tendi and Rutherford since season 1, and they went and showed why. And it was such a healthy Like, it's weird.
It's so healthy, but both of them are just like, no, I don't want to ruin anything. Like, this is fine for both of us.
We are happy. And at the very end of the episode, do you want to go crawl into the Jeffries tube with me? And then she's like laying on top. They're just totally happy. And like, it shows that platonic friendships are entirely possible. And there needs to be more of that in life. So yeah. And that's the thing. Like, that fantastic. Sorry. Just a fantastic episode.
Just gushing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Also, like, season 1 also had bangers right off the bat. We had season 1 with them season 3, episode 1, stealing the Cerritos.
Right.
In this one, Tuvix. We go straight to Voyager.
Like, and one of the, if I would say the most controversial episode of Star Trek that had ever come out, except for when Kirk and Uhura kissed, which was the first interracial kiss on TV. And I think it took 30 plus years, almost 40 years for that to become like a thing. Right. And it's just like, yeah. So anyway, got off track.
Just again, done in a different way than the DS9 episode was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it was character based in DS9. This one, it was all look at all of the highlights, or in the case of hitting warp 10, the salamander babies. I
love the curator. He's like, "Don't you touch my salamander babies."
Or the hologram like defense system like shows up, or I forget exactly what those, but like a whole bunch of the holograms show up, and one of them is the dude that Janeway gets a crush on. In the holodecks, he goes, and in twice his joke is, "I miss my wife."
That's right,
because Janeway deleted his wife.
Yep, that's right. Or we got to see some of the Tom Paris characters from his internet, or from his holo horror thing.
Yes,
it was super good.
The macro virus.
Yes. Oh, and I love how the fact that they use cheese, which is exactly what Neelix did, and the cheese was like super off limits. Oh my God.
The fact that you had the combination of, it was Billix and
what was it?
Oh
God.
Ta'ana.
Ta'ana, that's right.
It was Tillips. That's
Tillips,
right.
To Illips.
And they go around Tuvixing
everyone, yeah.
Everyone. It was so funny, and like, I'll just look up what Janeway did. She got everything right. She made it back home. Surely she got all the answers right.
Surely
she just straight up killed him.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is, like, in that episode, they bring back up the conversation. Was it wrong to do what they did? And Captain Freeman's just like, I don't know what to do, and what did Janeway do? And it's just like, in the end, I feel like they paid off the Voyager episode. And I think that people, like, our society has definitely moved on. Like, the thing that's interesting about the original episode of Voyager that had that, it's when people were really starting to really publicly talk about identity. And, it was like trans and all of that was not at all accepted in the 90s. Like, being gay was just being barely accepted. And so the talk of identity was just coming out. And I think Voyager was right on the nose at that time with, how do you define identity? Right. And the thing that Janeway ultimately came to the decision for was that neither Neelix nor Tuvok chose that. Right. And it was the same decision. It was the same thing that Freeman used. Right. They didn't choose this. And yet you're destroying life. But actually, it was Tendi, throwing them all together in a giant blob?
Yeah.
Or no, it was Tendi that had to figure out how to separate them all.
Separate, yeah.
That's right.
It's like separating them because they got.
That's right. That's where the comedy
together.
comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they wound up like being able to put a little bit of a, hey, you know, like she wasn't wrong and she wasn't right. And it's okay. It goes right back to season 2 of Next Gen where Picard says you can do everything right and
still get wrong
and still fail.
Yeah.
That's not unfair. That's just life.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a perfect example of it. And in such a funny episode, like the separating of everyone at the end was hilarious.
Yeah.
But in such a funny episode with all these like Voyager references. And once again, let's talk about the animation. Like I will get back to my thought, but the animation of Voyager.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's those like spot on.
Those animators know how to animate Star Trek.
Yes.
Like the character, I love how the characters are cartoonized in their own way, but the nuts and bolts of Star Trek is still the nuts and bolts in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right? The characters are cartoony, but they have straight lines.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like the animation, fantastic. But anyway, yeah, I just to go back to it, I just really love how they opened up that and with this incredibly hilarious episode. But also, let's go ahead and touch on this issue that we touched on back in 1999.
Yeah.
And get the debate going again. I remember floating around on YouTube afterwards, and the debate was up and running amongst all the Star Trek YouTubers out there. And I was just like, oh, this is cool. I really like seeing how like they're getting out there and like talking about it. So
there are so many bangers in this season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like what other moment though? I mean, like, is there a specific moment for you that like really stood out that you think about from the season?
I mean, it's so hard to pick. It's so hard to pick.
It's a leading question.
I want to talk about surprise, surprise, Parth Ferengi's heart place again.
Yeah.
On just seeing Rom and Lita again.
Yeah.
On why they are such a power couple.
Yeah.
They absolutely play that admiral.
Oh my God. Like
Freeman's like,
fiddle.
no, this is classic. This is classic Ferengi stuff.
Yes.
Goes, no, it's just sign one and done.
They're here. The Ferengi are at the table. Like, oh my God. Yes. And they absolutely played him like a fiddle.
Baseball. And the way it comes up again, like Freeman acting like a Ferengi.
Yes.
Again, showing like some of the best aspects of Trek post Next Generation. But you could easily say Voyager too. Mm-hmm. You could even say New Trek. That the strength of that is like we've had multiple stories of Starfleet getting something right in negotiations by admitting how wrong Starfleet is in its preconceived notions on its, depending on time, human-centric values. But all of them stem from respecting the other culture.
Right.
And acknowledging when Starfleet's wrong and acting like, and in this case, acting like a Ferengi by out-Ferengiing the Grand Nagus.
That's right. Who is Rom. And like, we know Rom is a bit of a simpleton.
Yeah.
Right? And the real power there is Lita. 100%. But the two of them together create this amazing, like, just... You said it, baseball.
Yeah.
Like
Rom is the heart, Lita's the brains.
That's right.
And both of them are incredibly powerful, and both of them would make leaders, but together they're stronger than Zek. They're stronger than the first Ferengi. Like,
absolutely. Like, and I love how they got Mayhardu's sister to be their servant.
Yes.
Mayhardu
is so good. If I could do one more, in the back of my mind, I keep going back to those old scientists, and I go, no, Matt, that's Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. But it happened at roughly the same time, so it feels like it's the same season.
It feels like the same season.
Yeah, it was in the first episode they referenced it. We can't talk about that whole Pike.
We can't talk about the thing with the Pike.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about specific episodes, I want to bring up a single moment that comes back later on in the episode in the season, and a character. I'm going to start with the character, and that's T'Lyn. I think she's an amazing addition to the core group now.
Yeah.
She brings this snarky, logical Vulcan aspect to the group, but as we learn and establish in the course of this season, she is an outcast of the Vulcan society because she's essentially portrayed as the mariner of the Vulcan Science Academy.
Too emotional.
And none of that really comes across.
Not at all.
But it does come across in episode 5, empathological fallacies. I think I said that right.
You did, and that is a tough one to say.
That's really hard. I'm like, that is too many vowels and consonants that make F sounds.
That's right. Yeah.
Which honestly, like, I didn't super care for the Betazoid diplomats.
Neither did I.
But what really kept me there was T'Lyn and her telepathic abilities affecting the Betazoids, which makes sense. But it all comes to analyzing the stress, inadequacies, and what she's going through, being an outcast from the Vulcan.
What is it?
Academy.
Well, it's the Vulcan fleet. I'm not sure what their military is called. So yeah.
But being an outcast, as feeling like an outcast as being a good Vulcan, and it's really great that immediately we are introduced to this new character that is going to be official staple and as part of the crew, and we immediately go into her character and what makes her tick and why she's important and why we want to love her, and I love her.
Yeah, same.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's eased into because in the Cradle of Vexilon, Boimler is having this whole like leadership crisis.
Yeah, he is.
And it's T'Lyn's calm presence of going like, look, you know these guys, you know they can do it. All they need is for you to tell them what to do. They will trust you with their lives because they know you and they trust you.
Yeah.
So go be a leader.
Right.
I said that way better because Boimler just goes like, T'Lyn says I can put you all in danger, so let's go. Because I did not say that.
I did not say that. Super. And in that episode too, like you get Boimler gets a lot of character growth there because he's put in charge for the first time, right? And at this point, it's pretty clear that Ransom sees something in Boimler, and Boimler also had something seen in him by Pike, and so that's got to mean something, right? And so, you know, being put in charge of something is a big deal in Starfleet, and I love how, like, and being a leader myself, I understand like the want to take everything on yourself and do it yourself. He literally takes it way too far,
too far,
in
exactly.
typical cartoon fashion. But in that, they do such a good job of putting the two of the characters together, and she's such an amazing foil for each one of the characters in different ways. Like with Mariner, she grounds Mariner. She props up Boimler. She not a whole lot of interaction with Rutherford, but I think she makes Rutherford like feel seen is kind of what I see from that. And then with Tendi, you almost have like a kindred spirit between the two of them, where science is at the core of it. And she's such a perfect foil, and you see that with Boimler here specifically. Like this is the episode where we get to see her motivations and where like her path, you know, was set like in Wage Douche way back in the end of season 2, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I love how they waited too. Like they gave us a year, like to make for her to like do her own thing or whatever. But like, yeah, they just like they created this character and they gave us this foil, and then they start the path of her character development that pays off at the end of the season. It's beautiful. It really is. Very well written character.
And the other one that I wanted to bring up was a combination from Something Borrowed, Something Green and the finale. We'll talk about this later. Something Borrowed, Something Green really dives into more of just blanked out on her name, Tindy. Really dives more into Tindy's world. We see Orion for the first time.
Yeah, super cool.
But the thing I want to talk about now is Mark Twain.
Oh God, Mark Twain. The Twaining. Yeah. I do declare.
And it's so Rutherford and Boimler thing that it's like, oh yeah, we just go do this. And the thing that I was not expecting and adored is that it comes back in the finale.
It does, where they got people to sit down and talk to each other by Twaining.
By Twaining to understand and get past, you know, their barriers.
It's so Star Trek.
And it's so funny. And I don't think they've done that kind of joke where something happens during the season, a joke comes back.
Yeah.
In that scale.
Never.
For the finale to help move stuff along.
Yeah.
And Freeman's there going like, I can't believe that worked. This is so dumb. And everyone watching it goes, yes, this is ridiculous. This shouldn't work. It's amazing. Yep. I love that. There is so much to love in season 4, and I hate narrowing just down moments.
I know
to this, but
otherwise we're going to talk forever. And that's
otherwise we'll talk forever, and we still get to talk about 3 favorite episodes.
I know.
So,
for me, my favorite moments are you've covered a lot of them. For me, my favorite moment of them all is, and I have no bones yet I must flee. I must
flee.
Yeah. The moment is when the banana dude is about to get eaten by Moopsie, and just the whole scene, like I can't describe the whole scene, but like where he's basically about to chicken shit out and gets eaten, and when he gets eaten by Moopsie, the way his sack falls, like his body sack falls, is one of the most entertaining things to me in the history of Star Trek.
And I think he practically entirely disappears. I think the only thing that was left was his clothes and his shoes.
That's right. And it's just the way it like flops down on the ground. Yeah, just Moopsie. And Moopsie. Like just it was such a great episode. Yeah, that, and I would say for a series of scenes, Something Borrowed, Something Green, getting to see Tendi and like how that episode really spins off into the finale, right? Like the big twist at the end of the season is that Tendi's gone, right?
Yeah, Tendi has to go
fulfill her obligations as the mistress of the winter constellations. Yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that like you get to see that insight into Orion culture, and that's one thing that I've really appreciated about New Trek. I'm just going to use it.
Yeah.
They've really dug deep, like with the introduction of Ron Howard's brother as the Orion in season 2 of Discovery, to the Orions in season 3 and 4 of Discovery, how the Emerald Chain was an entire Orion organization. You're starting to really see the culture and the way, like, because they've always been just portrayed as a syndicate. Like when we got like some of the greatest, one of the great DS9 episodes the Great O'Brien episodes is where he infiltrates the Orion Syndicate.
Orion Syndicate, yeah. So, I was thinking of the Mountain episode, but that didn't actually feature any Syndicate stuff.
Not at all, but like where he's actually in there, but they're all human. And so that was kind of like, you know, but they didn't want to do at that time. They didn't want to do the green skin. Yeah. And it made sense. But I really love how they leaned into exploring what it is to be an Orion, and, you know, how I'll forever tie together Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. Like, because of that crossover, the two of those shows will always kind of work like in tandem for me. And what really pays off for that is at the end, you know, we talked about it in the last episode of our podcast. The moment, like one of my most satisfying moments was like having, like when the Orion captain of the Orion ship, he's like, all I've ever wanted to be known was as a Orion scientist. Like, with the way that they've like paid attention to the culture of it, because we know Vulcans, we know Romulans, we know Klingons, we know Borg, we know Andorians, we know all of these species, but the Orions were one of the original baddies
that we didn't explore,
that we never explored, right? And the fact that we're getting the Gorn in Strange New Worlds, like my only knocks, and off topic real quick, but my only knocks for Picard were the fact that, like, in season 3, I really wish it wasn't the Borg. Like, we will get to that in our Picard episode. We're going to be a couple episodes away. We're going to be talking nothing Picard, but Picard season 3. But I really just, like, in all 3 seasons, it was the Romulans and the Borg in the first season. Then it was the Borg in the second season. Then it was the Borg in the third season. But we had the Changelings, right? And I'm like, oh, yes, awesome, sweet. Like, give us those bad guys. And they're just working for the Borg, right? Yeah. And so, like, you're spending too much time with some of the legacy alien species, and I get it. That's one of the things that I found fascinating about season 1 of Discovery was the Klingons and the redesign and the rethinking of them. I know a lot of people hated that, but I thought it was interesting. Like, try something different. Do something different. Like, it's okay to play with your story. It's okay. Yeah. Just don't change the core tenets of who the Klingons were. And that's what they didn't do. The Klingons, the whole thing was remain Klingon, right? Yeah. And their whole thing. So fantastic. Like, reimagine the Klingons. Great. And then to have them step back a little bit on it, but make it make sense for why the Klingons grew their hair back, because they're not in a war footing anymore in season 2. Awesome. Loved it. Kept the design. I love how the fact that they kept Worf looking the same, the Klingons as we know it. Like, they're paying attention where it matters, but they're also, like, Lower Decks, we get the Packlids, we get the Orions, we get all of these different species, and they're willing to explore them. Strange New Worlds with the Enar, right? Yeah. Pour one out for Hammer, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, they're willing to explore these new species and the Gorn, and for me, Lower Decks, I just think Orions, and I imagine that season 5 is going to have a ton of Orion stuff in it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I'm so here for it.
So for me, favorite moments, really, you touched on a lot of them. You know, Boimler, like, coming out of his own. You know, the scene, and all of I have no bones, yet I must flee. I would say, like, I will go ahead and just say, for me, my 3 favorite episodes, and I'll just, like, while I'm talking, I'll just say this. So I'll go ahead and skip over you.
That's fine.
My 3 favorite episodes, 3 would definitely be Tuvix. The great way to start a season, the Voyager callbacks, just fantastic. Just the love for, like, everything Voyager there just makes me so happy. Something Borrowed, Something Green. Number 2, and then I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. That episode just got me laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. I didn't stop laughing the whole time. And so, like, when it's so ridiculous. I have no bones, yet I must flee. The episode name is ridiculous. And the premise of the episode is 100% ridiculous. And I love how they make humans the complete and utter assholes of the whole situation, because guess what? As human beings, were complete and utter assholes.
Yeah.
So
on a different note, on a whole tangent.
Yeah.
I recently watched The World's End.
Oh yeah.
Recently the pub drinking one.
Yeah.
That's the whole message of the movie.
Yeah. Humans are assholes.
Yeah, humans are dicks. We're dumb. We're idiots.
Yeah.
Let us be.
Yeah. So, for you, what are your 3 favorites?
3 favorite episodes. I think in no particular order. I mean, Parth Ferengi's Heart Place.
Mm-hmm.
Tuvik's was so good.
It was. Yeah.
But I'm going to say, just to vary it up a little bit and cover our bases, Caves.
Oh, yeah.
Was a really good episode. You get to hear a whole bunch of cave stories and one in a turbo lift.
Yeah, I love how it was the same cave.
It was the same cave. They reused the same animation for the cave and they just changed the colors on it. That's so perfect.
It's so Star Trek. I love it.
And you get the whole thing of the crew are off doing other things. Our core crew is off doing other things and they're not spending nearly as much time as they used to with each other, and they're all developing other feelings, experiences, and opinions, but that's grounds everyone again. We're all still friends.
Right.
We all still very much care about each other.
Yep.
There's more jokes in there than I can easily say in a short period of time.
Yep.
The fact that conspiracy guy was right once.
Once, I know. Oh God. And Ta'ana and Rutherford at the very beginning, the first story.
Yes.
So good. So good.
And then I'm gonna say Old Friends, New Planets, the finale.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. That is such a fantastic. They gave us another cliffhanger. And
they gave us a cliffhanger
that was executed perfectly. It's kind of crazy. I have to agree with you on that one. I'm surprised I didn't throw that on my list, but I'm glad you covered that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a fantastic episode. You get you have Locarno coming back. Doesn't he look a bit like Tom Paris? I don't see it.
I don't see it. Are you sure?
Are you sure? It has the same jawline. I don't know.
I love the fact that the logo on his chest is the Cobalt Starburst.
Yes.
And the fact that he's so anti-Starfleet, he's going to gather up all of these other anti their own species people to all live on their own planet, and how they all can't get along with each other and they can't get along.
Yeah. And that's the fact of some of it was in the Lower Decks episode of Lower Decks, where we got to see all the other Lower Decks for other species.
Wage dues, yeah, exactly. Yeah. 3 ships and Klingon.
Honestly, Locarno coming back,
that's a cut.
I think was really good and kind of capped off the Mariner arc of her feeling
out of place
for her rebelling, which felt a little bit similar to the whole thing with season 3. We did a lot of that too.
Yeah.
But we get this again, but now she's promoted.
Yep.
But again, stabilizing her on showing up, it's she cares about Starfleet. She's Starfleet to her core. Yes. She goes about Starfleet a little bit differently than everyone else, but that's also a good thing.
Yes, it is.
And the call out when Locarno's, broadcasting his master plan about Nova Fleet.
Yo, he's crazy.
And whatnot. He goes, no, he's crazy. Yeah, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, it's so good.
Hey, I'm here. It's and takes the mini Genesis device and runs.
I know. Oh my God. Okay. So the fact that they got Robert Duncan McNeil to voice the character is so perfect. That's a deep cut. Like, it's one of those Star Trek deep cuts, one episode, and they spurned it into he's the whole bad guy for season 3. And it's the typical Star Trek, oh, well, you think they're destroying everything. No, he's not destroying anything.
Yeah.
The relationship between Mariner and the Klingon captain.
Yeah.
Super good. I love how it's a Klingon that gets her out of it because she's so pro Klingon, right? So like
she's also like headstrong.
Super
like
headstrong. She is a Klingon, right? And so I love how it's the Klingon is like, yo, just accept yourself for who you are. Like you will do great things. You just gotta let it happen. Mm-hmm. And I do love the fact that they kind of close off, because that was the one knock. Like, if I were to say there was a negative from this season at all, is that they kind of like rehashed the whole Mariner is a rebel thing again, right? And I get it, that's her character, but it was a little too much on the nose. But they paid it off really well, and I think they paid it off really well with Locarno as being like the super rebel, the one, like, he's what she would be if she goes too far. And it was such a great juxtaposition of the two of the characters, and it really did just kind of force her on track. And I felt like that was a really, really, really good way of doing that. Mm-hmm.
And also the end joke, it gets, they go into the nebula.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so Star Trek 2.
Well, it's the Mutara Nebula.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there. They're
there.
Yeah. Like the first time we've been back to the Mutara Nebula since 1982.
Then, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a deep cut.
The fact it's a Ferengi device. And when I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's a paywall. That is going to be some joke.
Yep.
About it being Ferengi. It's like, yep, paywall.
Yep, paywall. So good.
So good.
So good. Like, it was like if EA Games made it.
Before I jump into my thoughts, which what I say will probably not surprise anyone, because I've been saying it throughout. But I do want to point out again that we got to see Sito Jaxa reprise her role.
Yes. Yeah.
For the first time since she was in
Lower Decks, the original Lower Decks episode.
In the original Lower Decks episode.
Well, that was the last time, and then she was in the episode with and then the episode with Wesley and the whole Cobalt service and everything. Yeah. She fantastic character.
Fantastic character to bring back.
Yeah.
And then also we got Will Wheaton voicing Wesley in the flashback with Mariner.
So good. And I love the fact that she went to school with all of them.
Yeah.
It's good.
So good.
So good. Like, she's just the nerdy fangirl.
Yeah. Oh. You see the Boimler in her. It's like just bright-eyed, unjaded.
Unjaded. So I already kind of mentioned for me, like, before your final thoughts, and I know you probably don't have anything negative from either season. Like, I mean, like I said, for me, it was Peanut Hamper and the fact that they kind of rehashed the Mariner story a little bit. But those are such minor, like, complaints for me. I have zero, like, anything serious that I'm concerned about. Was there anything for you?
I think the only one that I wasn't super, like, crazy about was a few badges more.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. But I feel like it didn't move stuff. There wasn't as much there.
No, it was
some of the other episodes did.
It's the best thing that you're going to get, the closest approximation to a filler episode that you're going to get from Lower Decks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it moved the story along a little bit, but it
was good, and it was good.
It was funny, but Badgie, like, he's kind of, it's the same thing as we were saying in season 3, the kind of the AI that takes over. It's kind of a trope that's been burnt a little bit. And so, I have to agree that a few Badgies more was probably the only low point. But even then,
I think that was the only one that wasn't, like, coming off of a high after watching
exactly,
that
and it sat in between Caves and Parth Ferengi's Heart Place. So, like,
and
we were treated to a couple of episodes in between, so you kind of forget about a few baddies more. So
right, but like the whole season was phenomenal. The character growth, we got to actually see the characters develop more. They were promoted.
Yeah,
they got to do more things. Like you get to do. That's the thing, is like Lower Decks doesn't have to just be the lower rungs. There is infinitely more slice of life Star Trek concepts that you could do with Lower Decks if you raise that responsibility bar.
Right. It's the same thing. Like
one step higher, and you get way more character growth, development, and situations that you can make fun of.
Yep.
And talk about, which is super cool. So I love the fact that they're promoted. I hope that if there is ever an episodic or spin-off show, kind of like a long short treks, that we confirm that Harry Kim was promoted immediately upon returning to Earth.
Yeah,
because
we all need
now
to know.
Now Lower Decks were promoted in quicker time than Harry Kim was throughout his entire 7 years.
Well, you know, I gotta say, from a military standpoint, on a ship that size, there's no room for anybody to move up in rank. And the only way the military moves up in rank is by other people moving up in rank. So old Harry got screwed because no one was leaving that ship. So
no one was leaving that ship.
No one was leaving that ship unless they dying. But even then, like, I mean, there's a lot of people that died on that ship, so Harry should have been promoted.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Like, the thoughts on the season. The thoughts on the season, it was really, really good. And
so good.
Like, it was entertaining top to bottom. And actually, like, when we do these things, when we review these seasons, it really makes me want to go back and watch. And I wanted to watch season 3 before this, and this podcast has made me like really desperately want to do so. And so I think after we're done here, after I get this uploaded onto the flash drive, I'm gonna relax and watch some season 3 myself and enjoy some of that. Yeah, so that's what I've got for this week. Do you have any other final thoughts?
No.
So you're the man with the master list. What are we doing next?
Next time we'll be doing our research, though it's a little bit more fresh in our minds, but we'll be talking about Tales of the Jedi and Bad Batch Season 2.
We are in for a treat. Tales of the Jedi was one of those little like Clone Wars treats that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And all 6 episodes, fuck. Like, I don't use that word too often on this podcast, but wow. Like, every one of them, like what we got for, like, without going too much into it, but what we got out of that was such, from a lore perspective for Star Wars, so incredibly important, especially for Ahsoka season 1. So yeah, fantastic. And then Bad Batch. I mean, obviously I'm building the Havoc Marauder right now, right? So I'm thinking about it all the time. And Bad Batch season 2, boy, did it leave us wanting.
Boy, did it leave us with things that
I'm sad
have stuck with us for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it stuck with us. I still that scene. Like So but that's for next time, my friends. Yeah, so that's what we got. We got Tales of the Jedi Bad Batch 2 next time around, and then coming up soon, we're coming to the end of our little list of things to catch up on, and we get to do some fresh content here soon.
And some bigger things, too.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, as you know, we've been going through, appreciate all the support from the last little bit. Our subscriber count is climbing and climbing. As of right now, Matt, we are at 150 subscribers.
Woohoo.
So
thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for the support. Thanks for watching this. This is the podcast is where this all got started. The inspiration for this channel channel, why it's all Star Wars and Star Trek. And we really enjoy doing this. It can be a bit challenging for us to get together and do this, so that's why we do it virtually these days. And, so this is where we got started, and so we just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. Oh, my friends, I hope you all have a wonderful day. It's been a lot of fun bringing seasons 3 and season 4 of Lower Decks to you. So from me, thank you so much for listening today. Hope you have a wonderful day. Matt, got anything to say?
I'm going to echo what we did last time. Definitely buy physical media.
Yes.
Is a whole bunch of moving around and shuffling that has happened at Paramount that I'm not particularly happy about as the home of Trek.
Yeah.
Seeing some movies go back over to other streaming services.
Yes.
Buy physical media.
Yep.
I hate to reuse
Star Trek
a bit,
and Star Wars. Yeah, buy Star Trek and Star Wars media. Buy it. Like, that's the thing. I cannot disagree with Matt at all. Buy it. Like, it's easily consumed for us on Disney Plus and Paramount Plus, right?
But when a show is gone,
it's gone.
It can be gone, and if it never had any physical media, that's it.
It's it.
You'll have to sail the 7 seas, my friends.
That's right.
And that is neither an endorsement nor a recommendation, just a thing that can be done. So
I have a little bit of endorsement for Nickelodeon. Buy Prodigy Season 1 on Blu-ray.
Do it.
Watch it.
And season 2 if it comes out on physical media.
That's right.
Buy season 1, parts 1 and 2.
Yes, buy both parts of it, and it's important to buy those seasons because we're going to want a season 3, and there's no guarantees of that. So buy the media. Support your shows, my friends. Support your shows. So, I love it. So, as we always do, I'm going to wish you peace and long life. Matt?
Live long and prosper.
There we go.
May the force be with you.
Yes, indeed.